Feel free to follow me on my social media stuff down below. So, The Wheel of Time is coming to TV, and I have a couple updates on that. Apparently, Amazon.com has bought the rights to make the TV show, which I was very unsure how to feel about. I haven't really watched any Amazon Prime originals except for The Expanse, which, while being good, is certainly not enough to base all of Amazon's ability to create TV on. But after going over their catalog, Amazon does have an impressive list of shows they've created. Not nearly as consistently good as HBO, but not as overstretched and very often bad as Netflix. Along with this purchasing of The Wheel of Time, Amazon also got the Dark Tower series and The Lord of the Rings. All of this together makes me think maybe they aren't throwing all their eggs into the Wheel of Time basket, which is smart for them, but maybe not as great for us, the fans. We want them to be focused on our series as possible, but I do believe they'll still do a good job, and if they're putting it in the same category in their mind as Dark Tower and Lord of the Rings, they clearly give it some respect. I am a little worried that they have no adaptations on the level of The Wheel of Time. Yes, The Expanse is a pretty big idea, and The Man in the High Tower is a pretty large series, but no 14-book epics like Wheel of Time. Sony Pictures is still affiliated, and that's a good thing in my mind. They've created things like Breaking Bad, which is, in my opinion, arguably the greatest television show ever put on, and The Crown, which is, again, pretty good from what I've heard. I've never actually seen it. If they have any creative input, which I'm not sure they do, or even if they did on Breaking Bad, I don't know how television works that much. I'm just relaying the news. Then that's probably a very good thing. Actually, also looking through Sony's catalog, they have a lot of very bad shows as well. So let's just pretend that's not a factor. There has been one name announced that's actually affiliated with the creation of this show as an individual, and that is a name named Rafe Judkins. Rafe Judkins is a television producer and writer. He apparently also appeared on season 11 of Survivor, so if you're a Survivor fan, cool, I guess. He also helped create season 3 of Chuck, which is the best reviewed season of Chuck, so that's a very good thing. Also in 2014 and 2015, he helped create Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a producer, so that is also a very good thing, because Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a pretty good show. He was involved in a show that I'm not aware of called My Own Worst Enemy. Let me know if I should try that out. I've never heard of it. So my biggest concerns at this point are the length of the series and how they plan on adapting it. If they cut every book into half a season, that could work in my mind. It would be kind of fast-paced, but that's all right. I would be a little concerned about them trying to make a book a season, especially with some of the more dragging books in the middle. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Wheel of Time's guilty of having a few books that certainly do not have enough content to fill a 15 to 20 episode season. It's just not possible. But there's some books that absolutely do, and if you try to cut them in half, it'd be an issue. So I think it's going to be a matter of mishmashing books into seasons, which is a little disconcerting. If you want an example of that trying to work, watch the movie Master and Commander, a very, very good movie, but they took stuff from many books and crammed it into one movie. And if you read the books, it's a little jarring, but it was still such a good movie. I do think this idea could work for the Wheel of Time. Granted, it is movie versus television, but you get what I mean. It's the same idea. It's the same premise. There's also the issue of CGI. There will be a whole lot of CGI involved with the Wheel of Time. I am of the opinion that you shouldn't use only practical effects and only CGI. As anyone who knows what they're talking about should say, mix the two. It works the best. But with weaving, it's going to be difficult. Because yes, that'll have to be purely CGI, but how do you represent it? Should it be seen all the time, every time it happens? Or should it only be seen when we're kind of following a channeler from the main perspective? Should it be never seen and we just kind of imply it? I don't know, but I'd love to see what you guys think about that, because I'm not really sure how I want channeling and weaving represented in the Wheel of Time. I slightly lean towards actually seeing the weaves no matter what, but making it kind of a more minimalist thing, not a super over-the-top, flashy event unless it's a very powerful weave being done, like Balefire. There's also the issue of Trollocs, Myrddraal, and all of that stuff. So these creatures, in my opinion, should be more practical effect heavy and fall back on CGI to touch it up. That being said, I think that is the more expensive option because doing all that prosthetics on tons of actors could be expensive. So just having a CGI creature might be the way they go, which might not look great. It still can work, but I'd rather see them do more practical effects. If you want an example of that, look at how well the orcs in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy have aged versus the Hobbit trilogy. In the Lord of the Rings trilogy, those orcs look better because they're almost entirely practical effects versus the orcs in the Hobbit trilogy, which came out 10 years later, which look not nearly as good already because CGI reliance for actual living organisms just does not look that good. So I'd love to see them use a blend or lean more heavy towards the practical. With Merge Roll, I think you could get away with it a little more because of how weird they're supposed to look, and maybe even out of it would kind of work for them. But overall, I don't know. The only creature you have to use pure CGI shots for would be the Golem, because, it's sliding under a door or stuff like that. So the Golem, you'd probably have to do a lot of pure CG shots. But I'm sure they could make that work if they really put time into it. If you're going to cut any evil creature, I would cut the Golem, honestly. Yes, it's an amazing interaction with Matt, but it doesn't ever really affect the plot too much. So they're going to have to make some cuts, and if they need to cut one of them, cut the Golem. You also have the issue of CG battles. Now, this, for me, is where the most time and effort CGI-wise needs to go. Having an epic battle is very difficult, and if you want to see it done really well, look at how well Game of Thrones has been doing it. It blows me away how well they represent fairly large-scale battles. They don't always look perfect, but they look really, really good, and that's all I need. But I imagine that's incredibly difficult to do, to blend all that CGI and have all these actors around. It's interesting, especially with them using actual dragons, which we don't have to worry about. We have our little dragon, our taller dragon, Rand. We have Rand. Now, another issue that might come up with the Wheel of Time being adapted is how gender is addressed throughout the series. Gender plays a major role throughout all of Wheel of Time, and in today's political climate, I could see some people getting super offended about it and being upset. I think if you actually read into how it's being represented and why they're doing it the way it is, it makes perfect sense. But today's generation is not really known for doing their research and trying to fully understand an issue before getting upset. So this might be something they try to play down or tone down altogether. I could certainly see them killing Rand's love triangle with 3 others, so love square. I don't know. I could see them taking that away because it might not go over really well with modern audiences, which would suck because it is a very interesting dynamic for the book, but if it has to go, it has to go. I'd rather just have the series not be complained about and give maybe up a little thing like that than have it become a political thing that people are arguing about, and then it just takes away from the experience of the show. We also have women being on leashes that are held by other women, so I don't know if people get upset by that. People get upset by everything, so they might for that. I hope they don't, because it's never about putting down women. It's just related to the magic system. We also have mental health addressed within the series quite a bit, but I don't think people could possibly get upset over that because it's never treated as a representation of how this real mental illness is presented in real life, like how Brandon Sanderson does in his books, which he actually does very respectfully and well. But in Wheel of Time, it's never trying to portray itself as schizophrenia or something. It's just someone going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I think everyone will be okay with that. I get really annoyed when people get offended over crap like that, and so I just don't want to see it affect my Wheel of Time TV adaptation, especially if it's Amazon or something like that, and they have to listen because they could lose a bunch of people subscribing to Prime. So it's just a little worrying to me because there is actual leverage for protest groups to be like, boycott Amazon, and boy, Amazon would actually probably have to listen to them to some extent if they got real momentum. This is probably me being paranoid, but I've just seen it happen before, and today's political climate is rough. But I do have a lot of faith in them, and I don't mean to be sounding too negative. I am very optimistic. Everything I'm hearing is making me more and more excited. When I first heard about this Rafe Judkins guy, I was a little hesitant, but he seems to have some really quality seasons under his belt and know what he's talking about. He's put on Instagram a few things, or Twitter, related to the Wheel of Time development, and he seems to be taking it seriously, so that's a very good thing. There are really no estimates for a release date or anything like that at this point. Obviously, it could still very well be canceled. I would say they're probably starting to write stuff right now, and the earliest we could hear any major developments would be 2019, and probably nothing coming close to being on screen until 2022, 2023. That's just my estimate, but it's it's an estimate, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong down below. So please let me know your thoughts. I would love to know if you are excited for this, if you think it's going to be a disaster, and why. Please back up your opinion. I'd really want to hear what outside information y'all are pulling from that's making you feel the way you're feeling. I'd love for my confidence to be boosted or torn down, as long as I feel like I'm becoming more accurate, so I can either tamper or bolster my expectations. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope y'all are having a phenomenal day, and I will probably not be doing more Wheel of Time videos for a bit, because I've done the character examinations I want to do, except for maybe Moraine, and it's probably going to be switching to other focuses for a while. But of course, it'll come back. As I've proven, I'm very bad at staying away from it for long periods of time. But there is a book review coming soon that I think you guys will like. And that's it from me. Like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias, which are in the description. And have a good one. Peace.